When I think back about all the things I'm embarrassed about in my life, there are many of them. I think the most embarrassing things that I've had in my past are probably relationships that went on for too long because I've been too forgiving and tried to understand, like, oh yeah, he's a great guy underneath all of this crap. Oh, hi. So this is one of those stories, and I just want to thank my friends for putting up with me dealing with a lot of this crap, and now I can make up for it. So this is about John number one. I've dated two guys named John, and John, well, they were both crazy, but the first one, John number one, was an interesting fellow. So I met his sister in Botswana when I was there for the Peace Corps. It was kind of a random meeting when I was there, just hanging out with a friend, and she had just moved there, and so she told me about her crazy brother who lived in Portland. And so I'm from Oregon originally, and I had a sister who was living in Portland at the time who was starting an organic garden, and John, this guy, was starting a food cart. I'm like, oh, it's perfect. They should get together and hang out, and I'll get in touch with them. So definitely an issue, like a episode of Portlandia, but it's very realistic. So anyway, so I got in touch with John. I emailed him. He sounded nice. He met up with my sister. They hung out. She said he was nice. So 6 months later, I was back in the U.S. I hadn't dated anyone in a year and a half. I was like, oh, I really would like to meet a nice guy. Like, who do I know? I have some friends here, but John was someone I didn't really know. I'm like, maybe I should meet up with him. He's starting his own business, a food cart, you know, kind of weird but cool. And so I got in touch with him, and he had me over for brunch. And so I show up, and he has this beautiful, like, old Victorian house in southeast Portland in this cute neighborhood, and he's got his own garden, and this cute little food cart that looks like a cabin right next to the house. And he answers the door, and he has this thick, dark Lithuanian hair and big beard and mustache. And oh, he's so handsome, except, oh, well, his pants are too tight and too short, and his shirt is dirty and torn, and I don't care, it's all right. He's still got a great smile. So he invites me in, and he throws together a meal that is just amazing. Some of the best food I've had. He serves me homemade wine that is amazing. Also, we go on a tour of the house, and downstairs he's got a wine cellar with 100 different bottles, or 100 different types of wine from all over the world, and I'm definitely impressed. So he starts talking about how he is independently wealthy, that his family left him this big inheritance. I'm like, oh, this is all good stuff. I'm a social worker, so hey, it's my time. So anyways, as we're eating this wonderful meal that he's prepared, a cat comes into the room. And I like cats. Cats aren't bad, they're fine. And it comes up on the table, and it starts eating off of his plate. And he's still eating, and I kind of expect him to take the cat and put it off at the table, and he doesn't. He just pets it and is like, oh, no big deal. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'll let it go. And then a few minutes later, another cat comes into the room and walks up to the wall and lifts up its leg and pees all over the wall. I'm like, okay, this is a really nice old house. I'm like, John, your cat. And he's like, oh yeah, that's okay, they do that. Okay. So then I proceed to ask, how many cats do you have? I'm thinking like 2, 3 at most, maybe. John has 5 cats, and they're all male, and they're all adopted from very traumatic situations, so they're very difficult and very skittish and afraid of anyone except John. So we've got Max, Marcus, Felix, Bear, and Tigger, and they were very precious to John. He treated them better than any parent would treat their children. And so I didn't really know that at first, though. So I tried to let it slide. It's going to be okay. He's still got all these great qualities. So I started commuting up to Portland. I lived about an hour away, and would drive up after work, stay the night, go back to Salem and work, go back. And so it was a lot of driving. I was tired a lot, and so I ended up, like one of the first nights that I stayed there, I realized that he sleeps with all 5 of his cats and me. And it's a little awkward. It's a little uncomfortable having 5 cats around you. So I've got one in my armpit, I've got one between my knees, one on my feet, one behind me between us, and yeah, there's no cuddling involved, except with the cats. I can't move. My legs fall asleep, and I don't. So, so I tried to get used to it. I did my best to give him the benefit of the doubt. Besides the cats, everything else seems okay. And so one morning I come downstairs, and he's got this strange guy just hanging out. I'm like, who's this guy? He's a like 25-year-old hipster just hanging around the house. And John was like, oh, that's the guy I paid to clean up. And I'm like, clean up your house? Okay, you're paying a 25-year-old hipster to clean up. He pays him to clean up the piss off the walls.
No.
That's a little weird. But again, trying to let it slide. So anyways. So another night we end up, I stay at his house, and I really can't sleep with 5 cats. I just decided, like, I have to get up early for a meeting in the morning, and, like, this is not working. So I told him, I'm like, hey, this is really difficult for me. I really need some sleep. And so he ends up, like, I asked him if we could move the cats. He's like, oh, no, don't worry about it. Why don't you go sleep downstairs on the couch? And he gave me a blanket and a pillow and was really nice about it. And I really wanted to go. So, and I should have left then. I realized that. I'm a nice person, and sometimes to my detriment. So, anyway, so things just weren't so great. And like a cat, I watched his cats while he was gone in Paris for a week. And I had to wrangle one of his cats and force-feed it medicine while he was gone for a week also, and it was a terrible experience, and he got back and was completely ungrateful, and just was like, oh, my cat got more sick while I was away, like, what did you do to it? Like, it was really horrible. So anyway, so I still tried to make things work, and I invited him home for Thanksgiving. So he came to my house with my family. He met my aunts and uncles, my mom, and we all had a great time. And I'm like, oh, this is good. They like him. I like him. It's all going to be okay. And so we went for a walk after dinner, and he said he wasn't feeling well, so I left him alone for a little bit to kind of talk to his family on the phone and do his own thing. And I went up to bed on Thanksgiving evening and crawled into bed, and he said he still wasn't feeling well. I'm like, is there anything going on? Like, what's going on with you? And he's like, yeah, I don't really care about you when you're not around me. Okay, so I'm thinking, yeah, so I don't live in Portland. I don't see you all the time. Like, maybe I can try to figure something out. And so I asked him, I'm like, does this mean you want to break up with me? And he, like, I expected him to say, no, of course we'll try to work this out. But he said yes. So we're at my family's home, my mom's home that I grew up in, on Thanksgiving evening at midnight. And so I go to sleep in another room, and I don't really sleep. And we get up in the morning, and I have to face my family. And so we walk downstairs, and he walks ahead of me, and I used all of my willpower not to cry in front of my family, not to tell them, not to embarrass him, of course, in front of my family, and I let him say goodbye, give them hugs. They're just like, oh, it's been so nice meeting you, we should all get together again, oh my God. I'm like, okay. And as soon as he walks out the door, of course, I break down and tell them what happened. But the only thing I can say that is great about this experience is that I'm not dating the crazy cat guy anymore.